Namaste, fellow entitled citizens. Welcome to Righting Wrongs, a journey to justice, the podcast that delves deep into the complexities of societal injustices, historical narratives, and the pursuit of a fairer society. This podcast is brought to you by the Justice Movement of India, and I am your host, Rahul Kurako. For our inaugural episode, the focus is on the Razakar film and its message. And joining us today is Yunus Lasania, a distinguished journalist serving as the Chief of Bureau for Andhra Pradesh and Telangana at the News Minute. Beyond his journalistic endeavors, Yunus is also well known for his expertise and enthusiasm for the Hyderabadi history. He calls himself an oral historian, reflecting his passion for preserving and sharing the stories of the past. Yunus, welcome to the podcast. So, Yunus Garu, welcome to our podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So firstly, I wanted to ask you, tell us about your love story with Hyderabad history. Like, you're a journalist by profession, but how did
Yes.
Hyderabad's history?
I've been a journalist for about 10 years now. I guess after 2015, when I was working for the Hindu, I started writing about history in general. That time, I think I realized that I don't know anything about just my own city. So I think that is why I started reading a little bit more, doing some more research. So 2015, 16, I started writing a lot. I started my page called Hyderabad History Project. So then after that, I think after 1.5 years in 2017 March, someone asked me if I can conduct a walk for them. And that was how it started. Started as a food walk, and then slowly, I began doing more research about places. And eventually, that's how the history walks started. After, I think 2017, April, May is when we started properly. And it's been going on since then. So I think the reason I do the walks, apart from my regular reporting job, is also because I think people from the city should learn about the city. So that is primarily why I do the history walks. And I think it's also important for most people to understand the city's culture and how things function, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. If any one of you haven't heard about Yunus's history walks, please do. I've been there, and personally, I've learned a lot about my history, Hyderabad, because of you. Thanks for that.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I'm sure everyone who's been there, I can see it in their faces. Like they're all very surprised and very happy to learn about their history. I think it's a wonderful project. Keep doing what you're doing. Okay, then we'll get into the topic. Firstly, I wanted to know, from your perspective, from what you know, how would the events before pre-independence until the annexation of Operation Polo?
Sorry, I didn't have a question.
Briefly, yeah. So it's like from early 1900s leading up to the creation of Andhra Pradesh in 1956. How would you briefly put things?
So basically, see, Hyderabad, the truth is that Hyderabad was a feudal state just as any other state at the late 19th century. Hyderabad, I would say, historically, when it was founded in the 1500s, was one of the richest cities in the world, I would say, definitely, because of its diamonds. Much later, under the Nizams, it was a very feudal state. Some 60% of the state was run by what we call landlords or jagirdars. Jagirdars were nothing but state-appointed landlords who basically had to collect taxes, primarily from farmers. And the Nizam of Hyderabad, if I remember correctly, owned about 10% of the state land directly. 30% was private landlord, and 60% was for Jagirdari. So basically, it was a feudal state where the resources were pooled in Hyderabad, and I don't think the Nizams were directly aware of what was happening in the districts. The districts were run by Jagirdars who were not bothered for as long as they gave their taxes. So Hyderabad, under the last Nizam especially, he becomes the Nizam in 1911, sorry. And from 1912, the city starts to get modernized under something called the City Improvement Board. So because of that, it's a very big dichotomy where in the city you have this city which is now starting to be rebuilt with new infrastructure like High Court, Osmania Hospital, Osmania University, and markets and stuff. Where it becomes like a very nice new capital. While the districts are continued to be under feudal landlords. I don't think any development per se took place in the state in that sense. And I think, see, so that is, it's like, so it depends on what you see, how you see. So I won't say that there was a deliberate plan to not develop the districts, but it was a very more of a natural, I mean, not natural, it was more of the status quo that was maintained. I think they did have some plans to come through. Like, I think they did start some factories and all in districts, but I don't think there was any large scale issue. I mean, large scale move that actually ever addressed the issue of farmers. The problem generally in the state was that the landlords were very oppressive. So that is what led to a lot of unrest in the state eventually. Landlords were basically more or less absolute powerful in terms of general functioning. The state of Hyderabad, see, if you look at Hyderabad's history between 1912 and 48, the city actually gets very rapidly developed. Apart from the infrastructure, you have Hyderabad State Bank, you have Deccan Radio, you have both the railway stations coming up, you have the Begumpet Airport. Everything that we have in Hyderabad that we see was all built in the under the last Nizam between 1920s, 30s, and 40s. City gets flood-proofed also. So city-wise, development was definitely there, like one of the most well-developed cities in the early 20th century. But at the same time, the feudal system is what was also problem, which is why, I mean, politically there was no politics was not really allowed. So because of which the Congress, for example, starts very late in 1938. And then because of the whole oppression of the peasants, that allows the Communist Party of India to start setting up its base in Telangana. So those guys in the late 19th, so I think CPA was banned initially, and they have a separate frontal organization called the Comrade Association of Hyderabad. Then you have the MIM, the Majlis-e-Ittihad al-Muslimin, that initially started off as a socio-political organization that becomes political completely in the 1930s. So all of these things are happening in one go. And 1946, because of the constant feudal oppression, finally farmers decide that they don't want to be like that anymore, and they start fighting back against the landlord. So this happens around the same time when the Indian government is trying to talk to all the princely states in India to accede with the Union of India or Pakistan, whichever side they want. I mean, they wanted all the princely states within the inland mainland to join India and that side to go to Pakistan. So I think the only issue was that I think these 4-5 states like Hyderabad, Mysore, Travancore, Jammu, Kashmir all thought that they could stay independent. And as you all know, Jammu Kashmir, I think October 47 is when it formally exceeds. And then in Hyderabad, you have the last Nizam who tries to stay independent for a while. I think that is the biggest issue that right now that is currently under discussion in general. State of Hyderabad goes through a lot of issues because of that. Between 47 and 48, you have one. So immediately after independence, the state of Hyderabad signs an agreement with the government of India for a year. It's called the Standstill Agreement. And then after that, you have a lot of violence. So the Razakars, the MIM, the last president of the MIM, Qasim Rizvi, is who starts the Razakars, which basically was a paramilitary organization that went around attacking people. So all of this happening in one go. Finally, 1948, the Indian Army is sent by the government of India, and the state is annexed. Now the problem with this whole thing was that after the annexation, there were a lot of Muslims who were killed in violence. So that is the last stage of the state of Hyderabad. I mean, honestly, if the Nizam maybe had better advisors, if he would have probably, if he had some foresight, maybe he would have probably been better. Maybe if the last Nizam had better advisors, maybe if he would have just joined the Indian Union, maybe things would not have been so bad. I guess, and what is done is done. Yeah, so that's about it. That is the whole crux of the issue, I guess.
Yeah, thank you for putting it that way. So I want to clarify something. So when you say Hyderabad and when you talk about districts, you're talking about the erstwhile districts.
The erstwhile state of Hyderabad, which had 82,698 square miles of land, which had 8 districts of Telangana, 5 districts of Maharashtra, and 3 of Karnataka.
Okay. And in the history we read about Golconda kings being like very they're trying to mix with the local population. They're trying to do Asaf Zahir dynasty. Nizams also try to do that, or they're
So the thing is, the founding Golconda, the founders of Hyderabad, the Golconda king, those guys, the first one was from Iraq, but by the third, fourth one, they start marrying locally, and they learn Telugu, they adopt Telugu. The court language also includes Telugu. There was a very mixed culture for sure. Unfortunately, the Golconda kingdom is gone after the Mughals come and take over Hyderabad. So when the Mughals come, the Nizams come after that. The Nizams were nothing but Mughal appointed governors. So the Nizams bring with them a lot of Mughal culture. I won't go so far as to say that uh, the Nizams main they did the same thing as the Golconda kings, because they did not. I think the Nizams, in a way, they maintained their own culture, the North Indian Muslim culture, but at the same time, they did not. They didn't disrespect the local culture. At the same time, they didn't even push for it. Like they didn't. I would say that it was not deliberately done. Probably that they want. I don't think there was any effort to remove the local culture, but I don't think they consciously made an effort to become part of the local culture also in that sense. Like I don't see the Nizams appropriating any of the Telugu customs. So they definitely donated money. They gave money where it was necessary. It's not like they had an issue with people. That's what I can tell you. But I think maybe there could have been a little bit more on their part to, help the others, like help the local community in that sense. I don't know. I mean, I'm not. It's not surprising that it didn't happen to the extent that it should have. But at the same time, I guess somebody can also argue and say, did they really need to do that? Because they were able to make everyone live in peace. So Telugu people who were living here were also more than happy to do their part, because they didn't disturb the landlords, right? So the landlords were on Telugu only, mostly Reddy Velamad only. So those guys continue to live the way it was like a trade. Like, you guys do what you want, let me, and I'll do what I can do. So something like that. Yeah. So
I have a question here. So this is very interesting. So you raised about this Reddy Velama, Zamindars and Jagidars were doing that thing, right? So this Zamindari brutal feudal system is existent since the Kakatiyas, or then is this something they inherited from?
So from what I know, that the Zamindari or the Jagidar system, the landlords have been there from even before Golconda period. That after the Nizam came, they did not disturb the existing landlord systems. So I think the families that were landowners continue to remain landowners, because I think the Nizam also understood that they cannot disturb the feudal caste system as well. So that is something nobody has ever, I think, touched in that sense.
Okay.
So that.
Yeah. Then actually we'll come back to this the topic Razakar. They started this socio-political movement, and the main objective of the movement was to not join India per se, or what was their...
So that's pretty much what it was. Basically, see, I think they also didn't know what they wanted. Okay. After West basically kept on shouting about Hyderabad being independent. I think somehow maybe they were a little bit delusional that Hyderabad could have stayed independent in the middle of India. And I think that is the only thing that they had. It's not like they had very logical arguments to make. Their whole Razakar's whole thing was we'll die fighting for Hyderabad, and unfortunately people were killed. So yeah, I don't think, I mean, ideologically before in the 1930s, 40s, maybe they actually had like logically speaking, it's just a lot of it was a bit extremist. You can say that was the right-wing extremist version of of what was there in the state, but not everybody was supporting the Razakars as well. There were a lot of Muslim officers, especially who were against the Razakars. A couple of officers also wrote to the Nizam to like put down the Razakars, and Razakars basically eventually were a very violent group that pretty much went and attacked anybody who they thought was anti-Hyderabad being independent. They murdered a couple of people, and attack people. So you have to, I think somehow, I think it is also high time, someone talks about what the Razakars did to the common people before 1948. That is one aspect that people, yeah, don't really talk. Well, I think that's one thing people don't tend to talk so much about. That's also what allows it to become politically charged.
Exactly. So, like, I mean, we could talk about the film later, but then the point where I was trying to get is like, was there a deliberate attempt from the Razakars to suppress the local culture and try to
So the
stop
Razakars were
Hindus?
not there for a very long time. The Razakars were there only in 1947. I
Okay.
don't think the Razakars were there for too long to do that. So, but
Mm.
what they did was they went around attacking local people, especially Hindus. So if you were
Mm.
a Hindu and if you had a friend in the Razakar, then you would be fine. But
Mm.
they went around definitely attacking people who they thought were anti-Hyderabad being independent. They also had issues. They definitely did attack Hindus as well. And some people I met basically had bad experiences with the Razakar that they had to run from their house and all that. So they did cause trouble. I don't think it would be right to say the Razakar gained wealth. They also definitely did cause a lot of trouble.
So the Razakar army also consisted of Hindus, and they were.
Some books mention that there were a lot of land, like, that some of the Hindu landlords supported the Razakars because they also wanted to use the Razakars against the Communist Party of India. During
Mm.
1946, after the Telangana arms struggle began and the peasants began fighting back, apparently some of the landlords also decided to use the Razakars to save their lands. So it's a bit complicated that way, yes.
When Operation Polo happened, it was mostly the Razakars fighting the Indian army, or was it also Nizam had some army that
Nobody
was.
fought the Indian army. The Indian army basically had a very easy job because the Hyderabad State Army, the commander-in-chief Syed Ahmad Ali Rus gave up the war even
Mm.
before anything serious happened because he also knew that they were not able to handle the Indian army. You have to understand, is an army that fought World War One and World War Two, right?
Mm.
In the Hyderabad State Army, when the British left in 1947, they basically, the state Hyderabad State Army became khali because the whole purpose of the British being here was that they also keep an army for Hyderabad to use. So when they left, they took the army and they left, right? So there was no question of Hyderabad being able to fight India. That's just a sad joke.
Mm. So the Razakars were also like ultimately crushed very easily by the Indians.
And a lot of young adolescent teenagers were also hired by Razakar. So a lot of people who didn't even know what they were doing joined the Razakar. I don't think they were trained in any way because it was so. Yeah, I don't think there was something called the Razakar army in any way. I don't think they were capable of, you know.
Defending themselves.
Yeah, otherwise, what army? What kind of army are you talking about? There's no army at all.
Right. Um, I had one interesting question. So, I think we hear this a lot, especially within Hindu communities, that
Hmm.
you know, Telugu culture was oppressed. The official language was Parsi, Urdu, and then.
Persian. So basically, see,
Mm.
there is some truth to it in the sense that um, the official language among Muslim dynasties in India was always Persian. Okay,
Mm.
for example, in Golconda also it was Persian, but those guys also wrote code books in Telugu as well. So they used both, right? Under the Nizams, like I said, these were basically Mughal governors, right? So they continued to
Mm.
use whatever the Mughals were doing. They were using Persian only.
Mm.
I think the only difference, unlike Golconda, where Telugu also was promoted, the Nizams did not promote Telugu. That might have something to do with them being of Mughal culture,
Mm.
not necessarily of being anti-Telugu.
Mm.
That's what I said. Maybe they should have promoted Telugu more. They should have promoted Telugu, Kannada, Marathi more also in general, but they didn't. Uh, so it is in a way true because the state's official language after a point becomes Urdu in around 1887, 1886. And if you look at the number of publications in the state between 1848 and 1948, most of them are in Urdu, very less in Telugu, and almost Kannada Marathi is very less. Out of some 287 between 1848 and 1948, uh, mm, I think two, 230 something or yeah, 230 something are Urdu. and 30 something are English. So very few are Telugu. So I think Golconda Patrika was one of the most major newspapers coming from Hyderabad or Telangana. But yeah, I don't think the state government actively promoted Telugu. Like some schools and colleges had Telugu as an option, so people could, if you wanted to learn Telugu, you could learn Telugu. But the medium of instruction was Urdu. I think that is why a lot of people say that. I mean, it's true. Like if you want a government job, you require Urdu, not Telugu always. So those things also were partially true. Yes.
All right. So I have an interesting question actually. To what extent was the religious tension existing back then? Like, there's always this Indo-Muslim tension even now, right? So would you say it was more back then?
I don't think there was a lot of Hindu-Muslim tension because it's only around 1930, late 1930s after the MIM becomes very active that, you start seeing some kind of tension. Like it's only after the 1940s when this whole CPA started, when the Hindu Mahasabha also is also active, by the way, in the state. Or the Hindu Mahasabha is actually active on the border area of Hyderabad state. So you had right-wing elements in the city. So like it was, I won't say it was very communal. I think it's only after a point in the 1940s when, because of the Razakar, also things start to get more communalized. Unfortunately, we have not recovered from that because I think that was one of the biggest periods that it was very communal. Yes, I think more after the late 1930s. I think it's only 1930s when the first communal riot or some communal incident is reported, not before that.
I see.
Right. So it's only, this is a very around independence is when this whole thing starts. So I think that's also an important thing to note. I don't think the city ever had like issues between communities in that sense.
So they had issues with the landlords, but it was Muslim and Hindu, all community peasants.
Yeah, so see, most of the landlords were Hindus. It has something to do with the caste system also. Most of the Muslim landlords, from what I understand, would not stay in the villages. It's mostly the non-Muslim landlords who are in the villages. Because they had caste advantage also, right? A lot of the landlords were also, I think maybe 80% were more, were non-Muslim. The Muslim landlords were also there. Many, some of them chose to live in the district, some of them chose to live in the cities. But I think the atrocities also have something to do with caste as well. The only difference is that Muslims, I think Muslim landlords were not necessarily interested in always living in the districts as much as they lived in the cities. So yeah, so that.
Okay, let's come to the film now. Have you had the opportunity to see the film?
I did. I didn't watch it fully because I was not able to complete it. But yeah, see, the movie, as my friends, a good friend of mine, a political analyst, says that the movie was made for a very specific audience, and it is going to be for them. It is going to help consolidate right-wing votes. It might not necessarily help it, get votes from different people, but if you are already right-wing, then that is something that will help you, to like saying, that is the true thing. They had I saw the movie partially it's a little funny because there's not a normal single Muslim character. All the Muslims are very angry and all this shouting and scolding people. So, yeah, so that.
Nice. Yeah, it was obvious right from the beginning there. Like, but did they show the peasant uprising per se in the film? Like, what was the plot line like?
Nothing. It was like the Nizam was evil. The Nizam is an evil man. He has an evil country. He wanted to make Pakistan out of Hyderabad, and that's pretty much most of it. And they turned the whole Telangana arms struggle about peasants into a landlord, into a Muslim or a Hindu thing. That is also an important thing to note.
I see.
So yeah.
Yeah. That unfortunately has been the situation for a while now.
Yeah, I think I don't think the movie did well. I think the movie was not exactly a hit. So
that's true. Yeah, could be
mostly propaganda movies don't necessarily win. Don't necessarily become hits.
Yep. Yeah, but also there's been this noticeable trend, right? That Kashmir files Kerala Story.
Yeah, there's like a whole bunch of movies made for a certain audience. Uh,
But some of them
so,
work. Like some of them make it. Like Kashmir Files became such a huge, right?
yeah, that is true. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, but you're also partly right. Most of them do not work usually. Yeah. But that's
True. True.
okay.
I mean, most of those sometimes they don't work, can't do anything about it, sadly.
Hmm. I see. All right. I I wanted to ask you about the BJP's Hyderabad project because they've been slowly getting into Telangana, right? That's their dream. Like
I mean,
eventually
I
become.
don't know. KCP is saying here. I mean, they're trying to do that everything in the south.
Mhm.
So it's not necessarily that Telangana, but I think it's easier for them in Hyderabad given the demographic. Now you have a younger population. You have this whole wherever there is an old Muslim king, the BJP finds it very easy to penetrate and make a dent. So I think all this while because it was before Telangana it was Andhra, it was Congress and TDP.
Mhm.
Uh, having because they had TR, they were able to fill the gap. I think the Telangana movement also helped because otherwise, if it was directly Congress and if there was no Congress versus TRS for a long time, it would have directly been Congress and BJP in the state. But
Yeah.
so that it's natural for BJP to gain, especially in a state where there are more Muslims, so they are very easily able to uh, polarize voters.
Mhm. But then there's this whole issue about how they have this trademark temples in Mathura, Ayodhya. They're
So
also
that thing is not
doing
really.
something in
I don't think
Bhagyalakshmi.
any. I mean, so they're trying to claim that Hyderabad's name is Bhagyanagar after the Bhagyalakshmi temple, but that
Yeah.
temple is actually disputed, and I don't think they will be able to get far because the temple. I mean, you are you saying that you think that they will be able to?
Make this a big enough issue.
That I don't think people in the city are still are going to get swayed so easily by BJP in that sense. I think it's going to take them a little bit more effort. So we have to see what happens with the Congress or TRS if they're able to tackle this. Maybe not. I mean, they can counter it also. Nobody, if you realize, nobody is actively countering the BJP directly on this issue. They are BJP, sorry, Congress, TRS are they're always very scared to touch the whole to address this whole right wing equation. I think only KTR once in a while speaks out against all of this. Uh, because it's pitching his development model. So he keeps saying like, no, don't care about like stop talking about temples and all. But nobody is directly countering the BJP. That's also what allows them to go. You know, it allows them to do what they want to.
I see. Yeah.
Like for example, if the BJP says Hyderabad should be renamed to Hyderabad, not enough people from the other side counter them, and nobody says that. Even if you like, nobody is countering them and saying if you do change it, we will change it back the first time itself with like the day we come to power. So something like that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's this issue with BJP and changing names everywhere. So,
Yeah, I guess it sounds surprising also, right? They pretty much do it everywhere in the entire country, and I think this is one way of. I mean, this is actually it's not just about changing a name; it's also about long-term damage. You will see that these kind of things have a very big social impact on the country, and I think that is more something we all need to be concerned about going in the future.
it's true. Yeah. Actually, Shiva here, if we can bring him in. Shiva, hi, are you there? He actually watched the movie. And
Hmm.
do you have any questions for Yunus? Like, what was your take on the movie?
Yeah. Hi, Rahul. Actually, yeah, I've gone through the movie Razakar, and I also gone through the history of the Razakar, whatever Yusuf had said. No,
Hmm.
yeah, it's all a chronology of a one person, Qasim Rizvi, uh,
Hmm.
who wanted to spread his religion wide and who wanted to make an army and a
Right.
separate nation. So it is a personal will, a personal wish actually, but not all the Muslims have hated on the Hindus. That's the point we have to notice. At the same time, but in the movie, we are talking about the movie, right? In the movie, they portray only that Muslims are betraying Hindus, so they don't want Hindus here. Yeah, is the thing they portrayed here.
Also, sir, that's the thing. Yeah, that's what they portrayed, that, Muslims want a Muslim country or something like that. But that makes no sense because people are already living together, right? Qasim Rizvi is definitely a problem because he was the one who started a lot of these issues. And I think that is one. I think we can squarely blame Qasim Rizvi for a lot of things because he's the guy who actually definitely, uh, I think he was a proper example of a right-wing Muslim at that point of time. So, you see, you have literature.
Please go ahead. No, please.
So there is literature where you. Sorry.
Even the last Nizam ruler has also the place. Like he also wished to.
Last Nizam also, basically, there are different stories about him. Some books mention that the last Nizam was actually open to initially considering an easy, amicable thing with the with the government of India. But actually, Qasim Rizvi is the one who you can blame for a lot of things. He was the one who started this whole issue. I think the Nizam should have put him down, ideally speaking, but I don't think they did that. And that is the only major criticism that you can do in that sense. And I guess we should have. I see a lot of people don't also criticize the Nizam because they don't want to. As far as Qasim Rizvi is concerned, yeah, I think he definitely was communal. He had a lot of problematic ideas. I think also, I know, politically speaking, Qasim Rizvi had taken over the state. So towards the end, a lot of decisions were also taken with the Nizam not being able to do anything. So yeah, I don't know. I think we don't actually have any interview or anything written or anything recorded by the last. So we don't really know what the last Nizam was thinking. But unfortunately, yeah, we can always, point out and blame the last Nizam that he should have actively maybe prevented Qasim Rizvi from doing something.
Yep. Can you switch on your video taki podcast may record?
Sure.
If it's not possible, that's okay.
No, I'll record it.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's okay.
And also like by seeing these violence, there are some Muslim activists, so like you can name Shoaib Khan, and the Qasim Rizvi punished those reporters, especially
Yes,
killed those.
you see, Shoaib Khan used to work for a paper called Imroz, that was the Congress associated paper. So he basically, I think, appealed to the Nizam to, join India. So yeah, Shoaib Khan was eventually, I think, on August 22nd, 1948, was murdered. So yeah, Shoaib Khan's murder is one example. Qasim Rizvi and Razakar also, they do have a lot of issues. Like they do actually cause a lot of problems in general. It's not only Shoaib Khan. There is a lot of other violence also that they indulge in, and I think that is the thing people generally think. See, Razakars were not necessarily always evil. Many of them also were just simply looting people because they could loot them.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's basically because they knew that nobody can do anything to them. They went around basically looting and killing people. Like I remember some of the Hindus I interviewed for my book also. When some of the poor people told me that wherever if they had friends with the Razakars, they were able to get away with it. Like they didn't get any attack or anything. Apparently, sometimes if the Razakars were coming to attack, they would inform the friends saying that, okay, tomorrow there's something is going to happen, so to go away from here. So I think many of them were just simply, looting people for money also. It's a little bit more complicated than that. But I think Qasim Rizvi, I think, definitely had communal issues. Yeah, so I think that is a bigger thing that we need to understand.
I have a follow-up question to Qasim Razvi actually. So, how is the current AI MIM linked to the whole Razarkar movement? And so, because that's the claim, right? That's what BJP says now.
No, so Qasim Rizvi, uh, see, Qasim Rizvi leaves India in 1957-58, and after that, Asaduddin Owaisi's grandfather Abdul Wahid Owaisi takes over the MIM. So I'm not sure how much of it is true that Owaisi's grandfather was in the MIM originally with Qasim Rizvi, but the MIM that was started after Qasim Rizvi going has nothing to do with what he was doing. The MIM now functions under the Indian constitution and Indian laws. So politically, ideologically, I don't think the MIM actually. Although I think I have heard someone, I think I have seen a video. I'm not sure. Some people claim that in one of the videos, one of the MIM guys said we are a party of the Razakar or something. I think this was at the time about more than 10 years ago when nobody was bothering about the word Razakar. But now the word Razakar has become a communal thing. So MIM also is not distant. They're saying that we have nothing to do with the old MIM. We are an Indian. They say that we are an Indian party. We have nothing to do with the old MIM. So they also don't want to be associated with Qasim Rizvi anymore. I don't think they follow what Qasim Rizvi does because they follow a different leader, somebody called Bahadur Arjang and the party foundation. They don't praise Qasim Rizvi at all. So as far as the politics today is concerned, I don't think it's like I don't think they would have any, I don't think they would want to also, because it will become politically a problem for them.
I see. Yeah, of course. I mean, when Razakars are being painted as they should be here, it's always like.
One more thing is that after 1948 also, and the Indian Army went after the Razakars, they didn't actually arrest many of them. Like I think it was only maybe at best a few hundreds, because they were not able to also find. I don't know whether a lot of Razakars gave up their ID and went into hiding, or what happened, but they were not able to find a lot of Razakars also. So I think this whole thing is a little bit more complex. I think now it's too late, but I think they should have. I think we should have addressed this issue of what the Razakar did earlier itself. Unfortunately, we won't know. So I don't think most Muslims also were necessarily in support of Razakar, because there were many Muslims in the CPI, there were many Muslims in the Congress also, and they were all against. And many of the Razakars also attacked houses of Muslims who were in Congress as well. Okay, so that is the whole point here. That I don't like. If you ask me, I mean, if you look at the names, the half of the founding members of the Communist Party of India in Hyderabad, Telangana were actually Muslims. So there were actually as many Muslims in the CPI as anywhere else. So, like, in fact, one of the Muslims, like Makhdoom Mohyuddin, Jawad Rizvi, Alam Kundamiri, these are all Muslims only who are leading the CPI as well, along with others, of course. So yeah, it's a little bit more complicated than that, than just saying that Razakars are Muslims.
I see. Yeah, of course. I mean, we try to be very intellectually lazy and look at history as black and white, but there's always nuances in it, right? So,
yeah, of course. So this topic also is a little bit sensitive, right? You can't just directly say somebody saw that. I think the answer is somewhere in between, and not as black and white as we think it is.
Yeah. Also, can you talk about after the Operation Polo? I think the Indian government ordered a committee to determine what exactly happened and what was like the actual.
Basically, there was a lot of them after the word came that a lot of Muslims were killed. Many people were complaining. So that's when the Nehru appointed this commission called Sundarlal Sundarlal Commission. They go and talk to people. So they estimate that anything around 26 to 48, 40,000 people were killed, but they don't go everywhere. They only make an estimate. So we don't even know what the actual numbers of Muslims were killed. See, I think the problem here is to ask how did many Muslims end up being killed? Like if the army had come, right? The criticism is like how did someone actually how did so many Muslims get killed if the army was actually in charge? So I don't think the army directly was involved in killing, but I think they did not do enough to prevent the bloodshed. I think that is the largest criticism here.
I think the allegation is like, all the Hindu community that was agitated because of the Razarkar. Now
I think it has something to do with that only. It has a lot of people who are angry about the Razakars who maybe saw violence, and maybe it is also the right-wing elements also. All of that combined, you have more violence in areas like Marathwada and Karnataka where there are more Razakars present. So Hyderabad city did not see any violence. I think in the outside areas, I think that point of time India-Pakistan partition also happened, right? So you have to take into account all of these communal feelings as well.
I see. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, given all the atmosphere back then, this was bound to happen. But then, like you said,
exactly.
like you said, like maybe the army should have been more careful with the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Like given all this, like there are some things, if you have time, we can try to bust some more things. Specifically, there are things that the right-wing Hindu communities try to blame on Muslims right now. So, but when you talk about development, how developed is the Hyderabad constituency part compared to other parts of Hyderabad? Like, because
I don't think it's underdeveloped. I think maybe, I think there are certain pockets that are highly underdeveloped. I mean, I think also definitely needs a lot more infrastructure than anywhere else. It's also more dense. It lacks better planning. See, MIM as a party also has to listen to people. So it's like they try to, if they don't, see, last election in the state, they almost lost the Yakutpura seat. They won it only by 800 votes, which means that in spite of all of the thing, all of the notion that they are like supreme and all, they are not. People, if they're angry, they'll vote against MIM as well. We have to see this election what's going to happen. I don't think Assaduddin is going to lose, but the Congress should have ideally had a stronger candidate. But I don't know if they're still not announced it. But yeah, so I don't think Old City is particularly underdeveloped, but I think certain pockets are very bad where it definitely needs a lot more than lot more attention. Like there is severe poverty in certain areas of the Old City or Hyderabad constituency.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's also this issue with Mosi Riverfront project, right? People are worried something was happening because of that.
Mosi River has been shut and no water has been coming from many years now. That is under the last Nizam itself, they shut water from coming inside. The problem is that people, like the Mosi River the water is released in the Mosi River when there is excess water. But problem is that people have built houses inside the river bed because of it. Now there are problems. So, I mean, honestly speaking, you need to. I mean, that's up to the state government. That has nothing to do with Old City or New City. That's up to the state government. Really wants to do something, then they can. But I don't think anyone is going to do anything about red life soul.
Let's see. Yeah.
So
that's actually it. Actually, I had no questions after this. You wonderfully answered everything. Thank you. But if you want to say something specifically for the viewers, and if you want to invite,
I think I get to say that I just think people should just read as much as they can. That's the only way to learn. The more they learn, the better knowledge for them also. So I think more than, of course, people should. I mean, I would always recommend going for history walks anywhere in the world or the country. But people are interested, they should learn. I think all of us should learn the basics of our own cities. That will help us give a lot more understanding about how cities work in general. I think, learning about a city should not be like a cultural thing. It should be a normal thing for all of us to do as a basic thing to learn. It should be part of our learning ecosystem. It should not be some extra thing that we learn.
Yeah.
That's all.
Like for example, with Hyderabadi monuments, instead of looking at them from Muslim Hindu perspective, as Hyderabadis, we all should together be trying
Yeah,
to.
I don't think calling Muslim or monument Muslim Hindu is a good idea because I don't think it was built in that way. Because
Yeah.
many of the monuments are simply built for public usage, right? That's what they are. That's all they will be. So you get like if just because a Muslim king built something doesn't mean that Hindus don't use it. That makes no sense. It was
Yeah.
built for everyone, and vice
Yeah.
versa also, right? So I think that's important to understand anyway. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
As we wrap up today's episode of Writing Wrongs: A Journey to Justice, we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Yunus Lasania for sharing his invaluable insights and expertise with us. We hope that this discussion has shed some light on the complexities of Hyderabad history and provided our listeners with a deeper understanding of the events that have shaped our society. Join us again next time as we continue our exploration of pressing issues and work towards building a more just and equitable world. Until then, stay tuned, stay informed, and never stop seeking justice. We'll be back with more thought provoking conversations. So,